everybody, and welcome to Novels and Nightcaps, the podcast where we read, we drink, we ramble. My name is Gabe.
And I'm Nor.
And this week we're diving deep into the first book of the Hierarchy series, The Will of the Many, by James Islington. Who even knows? But as always, before we get into the book, Nor, what are we drinking today? Because we kind of correlated this time, decided to drink the same thing, inspired by the book. Nor, what are we drinking?
Yes, that's right. We are stronger together, and we decided to get some red wine for this episode because ancient Rome, am I right? So
The Roman vibe. Roman vibe. I'm not gonna lie. We will see how much of this thing I get through. I have the whole bottle here to refill because I'm not gonna lie, everybody. I think it's important to mention we've had kind of a rough go at it. You might notice Nor has some hiccups. I am a little covered in water at the moment. Banjo, our dog, jumped onto the bed and peed all over my wife and the bed. And so we had to, right before we were about to record, I had to run off and go take care of that. While, Nor, you need to explain why you have the hiccups. Tell everybody what you did.
I downed a whole Cania combo 10 minutes before joining the call. And
Yeah.
I'm suffering the consequences for it.
Yeah, canes will do that to you. It's delicious, but it's dangerous.
It's okay. I'm going to have a
New
counter
tagline.
for the hiccups on the top right. Or bottom right. We'll find out.
That's good.
But-
That's good. And if you're listening, you can just count along too. You can count every single hiccup because there's going to be a lot. There's going to be a lot. You know, every
There's
time
so
you're
many.
going to hiccup, just take a drink of wine. I think that's the move to limit. Either way. Anyways, The Will of the Many, that is our book today. And let's be honest, it's really good. As always, we're going to do a first 15-minute spoiler-free segment where we kind of go over what the book is about, what our initial thoughts on it are without diving into spoilers. But after that, for about 45 minutes, we'll go through each of our segments for our quote-unquote objective scoring system and explain our thoughts. It's a kind of systematic way to review a book. But as you will see, I guess, next podcast episode where we break down the scoring system, you'll see kind of how we decided to rate everything. But before we get into it, Nor, do you want to explain the basic premise of the book?
Right, so The Will of the Many. Essentially, if you're trying to pitch this book, I would say it's the story of this lost heir, or not lost heir, but he's the heir of a kingdom that has been taken over by this empire, right? The hierarchy, they call themselves. And they basically run on other people's willpower. Like, almost literally, the magic system here is based on someone's willpower being ceded to the higher-ups of the pyramid. And so he is an orphan, he's a runaway. He's trying his hardest to run away and not fight this hierarchy. He just wants to live on his own without ever ceding willpower. But of course, he gets dragged into a conspiracy. He gets enrolled into the prestigious academy, where he is tasked with solving the murder of his adopted father's son or brother. He's tasked with solving this murder and unraveling the mysteries that the academy hides. And so there's a lot of
yeah, I think that's
yes.
that's a fantastic starter place. I mean, it's really intense, a lot of twists and turns along the way, and I'm not gonna lie, I went into it knowing absolutely nothing. Nor did you have even the blurb before you read it. Like, didn't even have the blurb. I had no idea what it was about.
All I heard was that it was like Red Rising, but I haven't read Red Rising, so
I have read Red Rising, and there are some slight similarities, but I honestly think that's a bad comp. I don't think that's a very comparable title, and we're gonna get into that later in the episode when we dive into why. But overall view, for me, I gave it a total 8.55 out of 10. I thought it was a great book. I thought it was really, really good. It hit all of the things that I particularly love in a book. And the only area where I really felt that it kind of was lackluster was in its characters. I wasn't really super connected to any of the characters, but besides that, the plot, the impact, the style, the world, it was hitting on all cylinders, and it was really good. So I would say 100%. If you have not read it, go pick it up. Now, we're not just reading this out of nowhere. It is a book that's been around for a couple years now, but the second book is releasing in November, and you know that we're going to pick it up. This only confirmed we have to read the sequel.
Already pre-ordered. So
Yeah,
excited.
literally.
So
So,
excited.
exactly. So, Nora, what did you think?
I think this might be the first time our ratings are actually like spot on similar. I gave it an 8.5 out of 10. Um, I also agree it's amazing. It's an amazing book. I enjoyed it from start to finish. I think the weakest point, if any, for me was the world building. But again, I think that is going to change significantly
Hmm.
with the strength of the few. I think we didn't have enough of that world building, and now in the second book, we're going to get a lot of that. And I'm so excited for that part.
I have always felt that it's the second book of the series that really draws me into the world. I mean, Red Rising, I felt this way. I didn't really know much about anything. There's a lot of names I just kind of glossed over because you're more focused on the plot and the protagonist rather than the world as a whole. But as the series continues, it expands and is far more interesting. I felt that with Stormlight also. The way the Kings was like fantastic, and you knew your little circle of the world really well. But outside of that, I was completely lost. And as the series goes, of course, you start to get really invested in the world politics. And I agree. Without getting into spoilers, I anticipate we will see a lot more of the world in this sequel. So with that being said, I think I would agree. I hadn't really thought too much about the world being poorly done. I quite liked it, but maybe that's just because I'm a history person and I was like, Rome, I love Rome. That's all I think about is just Rome. And so I was super, super drawn into it. It was just, I was addicted to figuring out what little elements he included here and there.
No, yeah, I love the world, but it really was, at this point, at least in the first book, it really was just Rome. Which, again, I love Rome. I think about
I
it
love Rome
every other day, I think we
every
all
other
do.
day.
Ah, the Roman Empire. Moment
Yeah,
of silence.
okay, any other things I guess we got 15 minutes to fill on this. There's so much to talk about, so it's really difficult to not be like even with the premise. You gave just the basic premise of the book, and in my head I was thinking, "Dang, is that a spoiler?" But I don't know what else you would give. Like that's the that's the
It's
whole premise of the book, but also it takes its time to begin, I would say. And that's not a negative. I think for me it was just as interesting as the rest of the book, but it takes quite a few chapters to really get into the fold of the book. And I mean, I don't know, it took a good chunk before you even get to the academy. But that entire process was very fascinating and intriguing the entire way. Like it didn't drag. I didn't feel it dragged at all. I listened to it, so I didn't actually read it physically. This is the first book so far that I listened to on audiobook, and I was I let's just say it was hard to get to work because I would listen to it on the drive, and then I would have to go sit down and like start studying, but I couldn't because I just wanted to keep listening, which is a good sign for a book.
Yeah, I think I pulled almost like I stayed up past my bedtime trying to finish the book, and for me that's always a good sign that this is a banger. But
Yeah,
I
I feel like that's your metric. Did I stay up past my bedtime during
did I
this?
stay past my bedtime? Which is like 10 p.m., so it's not even that crazy. But
So
yeah,
should
no,
we should we should we give our subjective rating then? I feel like this is we should also probably do that during this spoiler free section. Our subjective rating for those who don't know is essentially a quick guide. It's not objective in any way, as you can tell by the name of the rating system, but it's a scale. It's a scale that is not necessarily hierarchical, but
huh.
it is a way of how we would prefer to experience the book. So, from. There's no order to these, to be very clear. However, there's kind of an implicit order. So we have PDF, garage sale find, library borrow, ebook, paperback, hardcover, and collector's edition. Now, Nor, on the scale, that's not a scale. On this, what do we decided to call it something, right? We had a good way of seeing it, because it's not a tier list, it's not a scale. It's your experience. We had a good word. Find out next time to
Yeah,
see
there we go. Good plug.
Good plug. Yeah, make
Good
sure to listen
plug.
to our podcast that dives into why we rate books and how we should rate books. That explains the system in even more detail. But Nor, what would you give it?
This one, I think, is a paperback for me. I think it's a paperback
Interesting.
because I really enjoyed it. But I feel like there were some pieces missing. There were some pieces holding it back from a hardcover. But I think the second book is gonna make up for that. And I think the second book, I'm trying to like lower my expectations or keep them in check, but I think the second one might be that hardcover. It might even be that collector's edition. We'll see. I'm very excited for the second one. What about you?
So, I'm going with collector's edition.
Damn.
And here's
okay.
my reasoning why. Here's my reasoning. I see it as any first book to a series that I think is going to become legendary. I have the feeling that this is going to be one of those experiences that collectively readers across the world remember as one of the best. I don't think it's 3 books. I think he's going to make it 4. I think it's going to be 4. I might be wrong there. It might not be, but regardless, it just sets up for such an impactful story. Like, I can see this going somewhere, and I can see this going somewhere that matters. It sets up in a way where the author has a really deep commentary, and the more this progresses and the more mature it becomes, the more complex and thought-provoking that commentary can become. And it would be a crime to not treat the first book in that series as a collector's edition. Like, do I think Way of Kings, I know we're going back to Stormlight, it's been on my mind a lot. Do I think Way of Kings is the best of the Stormlight saga? No, I don't. I think Way of Kings is great, but it is not my favorite. Yet I think that deserves a collector's edition because it's the start of something great. Therefore, it's top shelf. It's life-changing. And even more so, it's a beautiful cover that I think deserves to have a collector's edition. It's gorgeous. It's either cover you get, I think is like, it's just incredible design.
It is such a nice cover. Damn it. I want to change my mind now.
No.
But
You're not allowed to.
with
Stick
it.
with your paperback. Stick with your paperback. You
Yeah,
decided on paper.
I'm not allowed to change my subjective rating. No, I think
So,
you're right,
okay.
though. I think this is the beginning of a beautiful, beautiful trilogy. It has so much potential. I'm so excited.
So, finally, before we dive into our spoiler section, a last view, number 1, of what type of person would like this book. Number 2, I guess we just want to talk about who. I was going to say closing thoughts, and I'm like, wait, we kind of already did talk about our perspective on what we think. Yeah, let's just go over what type of person would like this book. Yeah.
I think anyone that likes dark academia will definitely enjoy this. Anyone who likes underdog trying to fight the system, I think people will enjoy that.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Have you read Rage of Dragons?
I have not.
It gives kind of Rage of Dragons vibes in that sometimes you just want to feel some testosterone and like, the protagonist is going to succeed. That's not a spoiler, guys. It just is like inherent to this type of character. He's really good at what he does. And
Like the
I
Northman.
think that, yeah, like the Northman. If you're a fan of the Northman, I think you would love this. Exactly.
I love this.
Exactly. Um, yeah, but if you also want to have some expectations subverted, there's definitely some subversion of common tropes here that I think people would like. That's why it was refreshing for me because there were times that I expected one thing and got something else, and I really enjoyed it. It was good.
I cannot wait to talk about that in the spoiler section.
And
But I
that's
think you're right.
right now.
Oh,
Right
let's
now is
go!
the spoiler
Finally!
section. So, if you want to stick around, go ahead, stick around, enjoy our spoiler section, hear us overview the book and nitpick it a little bit because that's what we're supposed to do. Otherwise, go read the
If you
book.
haven't
Go
read the
read the book.
book,
Yeah, go
if you
do it.
haven't read the book, check our link down below.
Hey,
No extra
hey,
cost for you,
affiliate,
but it helps us out.
affiliate. It does
Yeah, I
help
gotta
us out.
plug it
It
in.
helps us out great.
Yes,
That's so
yes.
good. Thank you. Yeah, so make sure to
Ah,
use our affiliate link down below. Make sure to subscribe as well and comment and like
that's a great idea.
because all those things also help us out. And if you're on Spotify, go ahead and hit that follow button. Ding. Do that too. Appreciate it. All right. So we should probably start with, well, we should probably start with characters, right? Okay.
Characters, yes.
Sonor,
I'll
give
let
your
you
overview.
start.
Oh, okay. Never mind. I'll start. No, I got it. I
Yeah,
got it.
you
I got it.
start.
Don't you worry. Don't you worry. So characters, I gave it a 7.5 out of 10. Now that seems kind of low, but I have an explanation for it. This is my lowest stat. And well, this was a good character. Like I liked him. I just never felt super connected to him. He was to me a bit too competent. And it got a little bit old. Like I understand it at first. I understand him being good at combat. There's a dueling scene where he duels another student at the academy, and he's gonna win. And I'm
So
like,
good.
sick. It was a really good scene, but you knew he was gonna win, and that you expected. You've seen him train. You know how good he is. And then it's like, oh, then he plays hierarchy with somebody, and
Foundation.
he's our foundation. Yeah, he plays the best. He's the best foundation player basically ever. And it's like, oh, he also is one of the best swimmers ever. Oh yeah, also don't forget he's also one of the smartest people ever. Also don't forget Vis is also the best at like the maze situation. He's like the best. He's better than everybody else. So like I really liked Vis. I thought he was compelling. He was not my favorite character. However, I did think that there was a lot of room to grow there, and this is something where I think could be expanded in the second book, and I could grow in interest for him. But I do have a caveat here, kind of. One thing I did appreciate. I don't want to dive into spoilers for other book series, but one of my complaints with another successful series that is kind of similar is that the main character can sometimes be a little bit morally ambiguous. Uh, Not that that's wrong. I think that's a great trait. I think that's a interesting combination for a character. However, I really did feel like this was morally good. Like he wanted to do good, and that was quite refreshing because we see so many morally gray characters nowadays, and it was kind of nice to see somebody who like straight up denies going the revolution route, says that's wrong. You kill people. I'm not going to do that. And then looks at the other side and says, I don't believe in the hierarchy of pressure. I'm not going to do that either. I'm going to do my own thing. That's a quote from a good movie. The Spider-Man. Anyways, that's besides the point. So that is something that I did like about the characters. However, overall, I wasn't particularly. I never felt like I was going to tear up. Never once. And that to me is a sign that we have great characters. If I feel emotionally tied to the emotional response of a character to a situation, oh, we're in a special place. And I didn't feel that as much here, but it wasn't poorly done. So that's why I gave it a 7.5. Nor?
I like the points that you brought up. I think those are also points that I noticed. It was really refreshing to have him be angry but not edgy. Because a lot of fantasy books, especially like YA, Dark Academia, the characters are so edgy. It was refreshing that this guy was actually good. Um, I gave it an 8.5 out of 10, and the only reason it's not any higher, it's because Viz is too much of a badass. Like what you said, he basically has everything figured out. He knows how to do everything, and he's amazing at it. And so, um, every single obstacle he gets thrown at in the academy, he is able to figure it out flawlessly. He's like that
Well,
one
I
kid.
like how there's like a few lines here or there that say something like, "Oh, and I'm struggling for a few weeks until I catch up." Like,
Like you're fine.
yeah, you never feel like he's actually gonna get outwitted. Yeah, I agree. That's my main complaint with this for sure.
And so for me, the academy itself, like the schoolwork, the classes, the social life, that never felt serious to me.
Yeah.
The murder mystery, the conspiracies, all that stuff, that felt so heavy, and that really did feel like he was way in over his head until he wasn't, because he figured it out really easily. I will say, I was a big sucker for the way he launched himself on the transvect and then dropped
That was
down.
sick.
That was
Yeah.
so sick. Him fighting, uh, doing the duel. That was such a
Yeah.
great time. Like I was raising my fists. I felt that testosterone. Um, and so for me, at least, yeah, that is one of the weaker points. Viz, he is way too good at what he does.
Mhm.
Uh, the way he did things, though, that they were so clever, they were so satisfying that it didn't detract too much from that.
And
Um,
maybe that's why, like, for me, I kind of saw that a little bit more as a plot thing. The way that he solved problems was really interesting. It was not himself, like it wasn't him. It was the actual plot of him solving those problems that I really enjoyed. Because I completely agree. It wasn't the result that was fun. It was the journey to
it
get
was
to
a
the
how,
result.
yes,
Like what is a good foundation for his foundation game? Like we knew he was going to win, but whenever he took a piece off the board, whenever she was like, we can remove a piece," and he was like, "Sounds good," and removed it. Like that actually was like, I'm pretty sure I was doing the dishes and I went, "Oh." That was sick. That was cool.
and then when he tells her, like, go back to your room, grab those documents, come back,
Yeah.
and I'll lose the game, and then she does,
And he
he's like,
doesn't.
nah,
No,
go screw
I like.
yourself. Your actions have consequences, and just kicks her ass. And then he gets
Yeah, no,
kicked in the face later on, but you know.
I think that kind of ties into what I viewed as the strongest relationship in the book, which was him and Calidus.
Calidus.
Calidus really
Oh,
was,
he's
he
such a
was my favorite
sweetheart.
character. Yeah, he was my favorite character. And he fit an archetype pretty hardcore, but he had a lot of his own. And this is, again, plot. I gave plot a really high score because of this.
Yes.
The alternate, the like secret motivations that Calidus had and that slowly unraveled was brilliant. I very much enjoyed that Calidus wasn't one note. I felt like he had a lot of things going on. He was a kid, and Calidus was one of those people where you could really sense some of the immaturity in decision making, but also the brilliance of these students. And yeah, Calidus. How did you feel about Calidus's death?
The moment he started warning Viz about everybody's mysterious deaths, I was like, "Oh, this guy's
Totally knew.
dead.
He totally knew. Yeah,
This guy's
yeah,
this guy is dying."
yeah,
And I
yeah,
have a really horrible tendency to like know when a character is gonna die.
yeah.
The character that I want the most not to die, and I keep reading, hoping that it just won't happen. And this book almost suckers you into thinking that he's gonna survive because Viz finds him, right? He's lost a lot of blood, but
Yeah.
he's okay. He's still talking. And then there's like a cut, and it says, Calidus died, like right away, I'm like, okay, wow, this is just so
Yeah,
sad.
it
Um,
was sad.
but his
I agree. It
death
was
is
tragic.
so devastating, but it sets up so much for this. I feel like that death he's gonna carry for the rest of the series, and it's really gonna shape him, right? It's like the other character, Aiden says, um, "Death is only
Aiden?
meaningless." Aiden, yeah, I did
Yeah,
not
yeah.
read the audiobook.
No, you're good.
Aiden,
I know these names are so. These names are crazy, which is why I was very happy I listened to it. So I like actually, I know how to pronounce them kind of. I might screw it up, but like, that's nice because I just reading them is insane. I don't know how you would. Yeah, it's
there's
crazy.
a
Anyways,
glossary at the back of the book, but I didn't really check it for Aiden.
yeah.
But he says, right, he says death is only meaningless if it does not change us. And he
Oh,
says that in response to Calidus and his death, and I feel like it really will be a major thing that Viz grapples with and carries with him for the rest of his life.
yeah.
So great character. All the characters I thought were really interesting. They fit their archetypes really well, but
They had a
having
lot more
the
going on though than
yes,
usual character archetypes did.
there's so many like double faces, facades, right?
Yeah,
There's so many motives that are hidden. One of my favorites was Relucia,
yeah.
and like I also really had a strong feeling that she was Ultisor's wife, especially the moment he mentions her and he says that like she's always out of town. I'm like, okay, well, wouldn't it be funny if it's Relucia? And then that reveal was so satisfying. Uh,
It was
she,
so good. I
she's so awesome in like a horrible way.
Yeah, she's
Uh,
a great villain. She's really
she's
good.
the she's the most likable, unlikable character, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
She's such a any chapter with her, I was like smiling at how devious she is.
Yeah, she's very charismatic, which I
Yeah,
honestly don't think you get a lot of really strong, charismatic female villains. I don't think we get to see that very often. Um, and I think there's a tendency with a lot of male authors, especially to like default to the wicked witch sort of vibe, where she's just a horrible person, or the somebody who's like I don't know, but I definitely felt like so her name is Relucia, by the way. But it's okay, it's okay. But she had that charisma, but also was like so wrong. Like you could tell like she had this vision, she had this goal, but there's still some serious motivation that we don't know, which I'm looking forward to. Like there's a lot of questions that still remain unanswered, especially with her. I listen. I predicted a lot in this book as well, not intentionally, but not doing multiple parts to cover the will of the many like we have with our books in the past. I didn't have to sit there and ponder as much. And the first half of this book, I like crushed super fast. So never really had time to think about who Okiskor's wife is. So I was totally blindsided. Like I was so blind. It really did surprise me because I hadn't thought about it. Like immediately I thought about it and went, "Oh yeah, that makes total sense. I should have seen that coming." But I really didn't expect it. And that is such a satisfying experience. I love whenever I get blindsided as a reader. And maybe it's just because it doesn't, the more books you read, the less it happens. But it was truly a special reveal, and it was really dramatic, very intense.
yeah, the reveals here were so satisfying. Um, it's not always that a book gets you smiling whenever something like devious or like twisty happens. You know, that's a big plus for this book. I feel like I had such a great time with the characters.
I, yeah, and on top of that, I mean, I felt like it was very difficult to decipher who was a villain and who was a hero. Um, like Relucia, I feel like we can all kind of be like, yeah, slaughtering thousands upon thousands of people, not good. Like I understand your goal is a just aim, but also you're killing tons of civilians, and it gets a lot more complicated though whenever we look at like Ulquiskor or Viridius, right? Like
I don't like
is
the pronunciation.
Viridius
It's just no. Olkisker?
Ulquiskor?
Olkiskor.
That's from Ulquiskor. That's
That's
from the
so
author
icky.
himself. That's the author himself. Um, and
Did the
so
author narrate the
that's
book?
where. No, I looked it up just to like make sure, and that was the author's pronunciation of the character. Um,
To be fair, he is Australian, but I don't like it. Oh, it's nasty. It's so
you could just call
counterintuitive.
him.
Or
You
maybe
could you could just call him Mr. Telemus. You can call him Mr. Telemus.
Mr. Telemus.
Magnus
Mr.
Magnus
Telemus.
Quintus Telemus.
Papa Telemus. Yeah.
Papa Telemus. Yeah, I like at first he seems like a good guy. He seems different than the rest, but the longer the book goes on, the more he kind of just seems so blinded by this hyperfixation where he's willing to do anything to accomplish it. Whereas Viridius becomes more and more of this kind of anti-hero. And at the end of the book, I honestly was like, I don't really know like what to think of Viridius.
He reminded me a lot of Dumbledore if he was like more pragmatic. Like if he was more
Yeah.
willing to sacrifice his students. Because Dumbledore only was willing to sacrifice one of his students, but this guy, he had no problem killing people or letting them be killed by the labyrinth. Um, but back to Viz real quick.
Yeah.
One of the gripes I think we've both had was that he was too good at everything.
Mhm.
One of the reasons I'm excited for book two is that the ending completely uproots all of our expectations in a way. And now we have essentially three different planes of existence or three different realities, uh,
Yeah.
three different and
Viz.
Vizzes, yeah. And he's doing like all these new things. I feel like he will be a fish out of water in book two
Mhm.
a little bit more. He will be a little bit more out of his field, right? So
Dude.
hopefully we see a lot more growth in book two for him.
So the early reviews for book two, I've already told you this. The early reviews though are like pretty dang good. And I don't, to be honest, I don't know how. And I don't mean that as like a bad thing. I'm just saying, do you have three perspective characters all named Vis? Do you?
I'm so excited.
I just don't know how you do that. And I'm really looking forward to it because that's a lot to get straight, but also a lot to jump between. And this is one of my later gripes with Stormlight is sorry, we're going back to Stormlight. One of my later gripes with Stormlight is that it just kind of gets a little too big. Like it has that MCU sort of thing where it just kind of grows and grows and grows. It gets more and more epic, and the more epic it gets, the less it feels like there are stakes. Which feels counterintuitive, but I think it makes sense. Where the more that anything and everything can happen and is happening all at once, the less it feels like things matter because you're about to just go to a new chapter in a different plane of existence. So that's where I'm just hoping it stays a bit grounded, a little bit, where we still have some sort of real conflict that is a through line between it. So we'll see how that functions. I don't know what to expect, but I will say that reveal at the end, and maybe we should get into plot now because I feel like we're diving into plot a little bit here. The plot.
Yeah, I was gonna say he has such a really good way of subverting expectations, and like you said, I think this is the best time to start talking about plots. So, what do you give the plot?
So I gave it a 9.5 out of 10. I almost gave it a perfect score.
That
And
is really high.
so to be clear, we've never given anything a 10 out of 10 yet. I hope one day we will. I'm hoping one day I get blown out of the water and have no criticisms. I have some slight criticisms here, but my slight criticism would be it is a little predictable. There are times that I felt like it could have been a little more interesting. I felt like there were more interesting choices. However, the structure of the plot, the highs and the lows, oh my gosh. It says something that, I mean, it's in the first act, I think, the Colosseum scene.
The Colosseum. Yes.
Oh my gosh. Like I think I messaged you and it was like, where are you at? Cause I just needed to react. I needed to react because that was so shocking. Like that was out of nowhere. And I really did not expect it. And, or even whenever his, I don't remember what it's called, the transvect. I don't know why I remember that. Hey, that's a good little point for world building. I remember some of the terms. Let's go. But the transvect crashes, and I fully expected him to go with her. I was like, okay, we're going to get, this is a normal thing. Like the hero gets trained up. He's going to go with the rebellion. He's part of the rebellion now. He's like a spy for them. And I'd seen that, and I expected it because it's kind of like Red Rising, and I heard it's like Red Rising. So I kind of assumed it was going to follow a similar tone. But no, this said, no way. I don't want to do that. That sounds like something that I don't want to do. And then he just did it. And it was still really interesting. So almost all of the plot choices I felt were the most interesting choice. And the web was so complex yet so simple, where each character had its own thing going on. And he spent significant time with each character where all the side characters felt important and like they mattered. Yet at the same time, there was a really cohesive through line. Like it didn't get in over its head. So that's my, I guess, quick summary of what I thought of plot. 9.5 out of 10. What did you think?
I really don't want to repeat what you said, but that is exactly what I was going to say. I give it a 9 out of 10. Again, the thing holding it back from a 10 is its predictability, which ironically, it's also its strength, not necessarily the predictability, but the subversion of your expectations. I think I texted you saying like I called it the time travel thing because what I had in mind was like time travel, like timelines. I think I've just been consuming a lot of multiverse media, but the story felt so familiar yet so off, and the best way I can describe it, right, is like the canon events from Across the Spider-Verse, where there's like these pre-established norms and expectations we have with like fantasy and dark academia and all that stuff, right? And then here we have this just completely rejecting Relucia to join the rebellion. Like that to me, the best way I can describe it, when that happened, it felt like two timelines splitting because he goes against the norm, and it was very refreshing. Um, I started reading Red Rising, and I'm sure and I trust that it will get better. But
Dude, trust me. Trust me.
What little I've read, I've been rolling my eyes because of how it really fits that a vibe that I'm so used to. I'm sure Red Rising is gonna like completely blow my mind as I keep
especially
reading.
in the second book. In the second book, especially, I just whatever.
The second book, heard.
Yeah.
So I am excited to read that. But as for the Will of the Many, that was just so refreshing. Getting all those expectations just completely shattered. The scene at the Colosseum in a different book, that would be the final battle. In this one, it's literally part one, and it's so good. It just came out of nowhere. It blew my mind. I had to do a double take when I read the thousands of people are just completely
Getting
blew up.
disintegrated.
It was awesome, yeah. And all the blood and all the gore, it was crazy.
So good. And in this being a hero there, and like, it's weird because I don't know why I expected him to escape, but I did. I kind of expected him to leave. And I don't know why. I don't know why I did. But in the moment, like I obviously, whenever they went towards the tunnel and I was like, should I go this way or this way? I'm like, okay, yeah, I know what's going to happen. But right when it was happening, my brain was saying, "You can't do anything about that. Like, you leave, bro. Like, get out of
What are
there."
you gonna do, right?
It says something that my brain panicked as a reader, and that's incredible. That speaks to a good plot. That is, it's because I think a lot of times you can expect that chaos because things are going too well or they're too happy. But he was there for like a subversive reason to begin with. He was there to talk to Sadoshia. That's what she is on her like Anguis rebel group name. But like he was there for a reason to begin with. It wasn't just him experiencing the sights.
Mm-hmm.
So I really didn't expect it because there was already a plot line going on. And so that kind of gives me into my like second point about the plot that I really liked, with specifically the Naumachia, the Colosseum sequence, is Iqua. I really liked as a character because initially I thought she was going to be some love interest, and I was really annoyed because they had like no chemistry, and it didn't make sense to me. I don't. Honestly, this is maybe just my fault, but I'm like, okay, first female his age he's interacting with, the love interest, check.
Love interest.
Spending time.
No, yeah. I thought so too.
And it was very nice to see their development as a group, especially with her, accusing him and basically sending a test to see if he's cheating and to be proven wrong. And then for her to like actually make up for it, to have honor, kind of was sick. Like that is, especially her storyline was a storyline that I could not predict. I did not predict. Like I really didn't know if Iqua was going to betray him or not whenever they were actually doing the wait, what is the
Eucedium?
Yeah, that one. Final test. During the final test, I really didn't know if she was going to betray him because it made total sense. Like other characters would. His actual girlfriend, of course, kind of did. I don't know. We didn't really get an explanation with that. For now, I'm saying she's a traitor. We didn't get an explanation, right? With Amisa?
She's Viridia says it's because it was like she smelled a different blood.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's wrong with all that.
Blood. We'll find out soon enough.
Yeah, because that was the whole like obsidian flask thing, right? Like they tested him for it, and I kept an eye on like, okay, obsidian, got it, obsidian important, and yet still, I mean, she was clearly using will, like her eyes went black, and so she was using will, and I was like, she's the cheater. That's immediately my thought was like, she's a cheating son of a gun. She's been cheating this whole time. I don't know. I like that I don't know if she actually betrayed him. It felt that way. I felt betrayed, yet also I expected it fully because it made total sense. I mean, Keyscore kept warning him, and so it seemed obvious. Yet the fact that at the end, I'm still questioning whether or not she's actually a traitor.
Yeah, because she
says something to the author. And
they keep describing it as something that was out of her control, so I'm definitely interested to see where that goes, but it's hard to tell, right? And again, I think like you said, it just goes back to Islington being such a damn good plotter. Like his plot is so good. Like there were many times as I was reading the book and something exciting happened that in my head I was just like, the plot thickens. It's just so excited. Like I said that multiple times as I was reading, and I am so excited to see what happens next with book 2.
Yeah, I completely. I think that's the key here is like his plotting, just the way he structures the story and everything intertwines, and it feels like right as something starts to get dull, he introduces something else. And it's really good. No, we got to talk about his relationship with Aiden, I think. Because Aiden was, for me, the biggest surprise character. Like, I saw that he was going to be the big brute that becomes his friend. Like, I got that. But at the same time, I could also see he's the big brute that he has to crush. That he, like, following a bit more of a Red Rising mindset, because that's what I was told this book was like. I was thinking, oh, he's going to absolutely, like, destroy this guy. Like, he's going to step over him. Yet every step of the way, he kept making friends and doing the right thing and only fighting back when he actually needed to. And even then, there was like mercy. I Yeah, I was a, and maybe okay, maybe we should talk about impact because for me, this was the biggest surprise. I give impact a 9 out of 10, and the reason I give it a 9 out of 10 is it partly subverted my expectations, but it also left me thinking a lot on a lot of things, like a whole slew of topics. Like there was like leadership, concepts of who has the right to lead, what makes a good leader, and the fact that Viz's father feels like biblical a little bit, like he's so wise and has
What
these
makes a good
nuggets of
ruler?
truth. Yeah, right.
Who gives you
And
the right to rule? Yeah, that scene was so good.
yeah, and that really gave me like pause because in a different story, it would have said like something so simple, yet there it said something that isn't what you would want, but is kind of true. Like there's no way to be a good ruler, really. You try your
Yeah.
best, but you're never going to be that perfect ruler. And you don't have a right to lead. You are leading, but you don't necessarily have a right to. Just Viz's relationship with the structures around him was real to me because it's so easy to villainize, it's so easy to celebrate. Yet this book didn't really fall into any of those traps. Um, and I it left me thinking and not knowing, which is good because so many books give you a clear answer or pretend to give you a clear answer. Yet as a reader, I feel like we struggle through this conversation along with this because he doesn't know what the right answer is because it doesn't feel like there is a good one. So I don't know. I give it a 9 out of 10 because not because of any character's death, not because of any specific plot moment, but because of the deep philosophical questions that I felt were especially relevant in today's political climate, today's just climate in general. It hit home. Let's just say that. So, Nora, what did you give it?
I think this is the first time we've actually kind of agreed on everything so far. Because for me, usually, and I've talked about this before, right? Like characters are such a big part of the story. Characters to me are the story, and an impact for me, it's usually the journey this character goes through, the transformation at the end. But in this case, in The Will of the Many, Islington raises so many questions, and these are huge questions, right? That don't really have a definite answer, and if they do, I definitely don't know it. Um, it's more focused on raising these questions, raising these, or like planting the seeds for something huge, right? So in that sense, The Will of the Many is your classic first book. It has more questions than answers, right? But it's really thought provoking. Um, I gave it an 8.5. I think again, the questions were just so damn good. Like, who's to blame? Where do we draw the line, right? Because obviously, terrorism isn't the answer. You don't kill thousands of people just because the system is corrupt. But at the same time, are the people are the people subservient to the system responsible? And to what degree are
Mm-hmm.
they responsible? And that was such a good
Yeah.
question because it's one that I think a lot of us unconsciously ask ourselves, but to
Yeah.
have it actually like written down for you, like explicitly asked, it takes you a moment to really think about it. Because like, are the people, are the denizens responsible for the oppressive regime, right? Or like to what degree? Um, I'm really glad you mentioned how relevant it really is to the climate right now, the political climate, not just in the U.S. but in the world, right? Questions about democracy, corruption, greed, the passivity of the people, the responsibility that one has, not just as the oppressor but as the oppressed, right? It's very interesting. Um, again, I can't even begin to pretend to have the answers, but I am very, very interested to see where this book goes and what ends up happening with Viz, right? Because there were so many ideologies thrown at him, and he was being tugged from every direction. And
I really hope
so
the
good.
answer in book two is like monarchy is the answer. Like the way to fix the problem is monarchy. I really hope that's the hill he dies on is like, we really need a king. Like
Ah,
that'd
the
be so
chosen
good.
one.
The chosen one. He's the
Oh,
chosen. That'd be so funny. Takes like a complete left turn. Actually, just the
oh my
chosen one.
god! Don't, please,
No, but like no, I think
please
you're
don't.
completely right. Because honestly, the equivalent of this book, at least how it feels, is like I this might be a stretch, but this is how I kept thinking about it. This is a convict, right? He's illegal. Like as a character, he's illegal. So it'd be like if a convict sees somebody getting beaten up. Convict sees somebody getting beaten up, a runaway convict. It knows that if they intervene, if they call the police, if they take part and help the person involved, they're going to end up going back to prison. You know, they're going to suffer somewhat. Yet the answer is like, are you morally responsible if you don't step in? Like how much is the bystander effect really impactful for those who have suffered, for those who have been oppressed? Like at what point are like are there levels of oppression? Are the oppressed responsible to help the other oppressed? Because like the people at the bottom of the pyramid cede their will, yet at the same time they're being oppressed. Like let's not get that twisted. So how much are they responsible for not only their own oppression but the oppression of others? And um I like that Vis though had mercy. Like he had the ability to look at people and say like, yeah, but they're people. Like, yeah, I felt very Superman. I don't know. Vis felt very Superman a little bit, where he still had the ability to understand that. I mean, yeah, you got a point, but like, they're still people. Like, you
it's
can't just
just
kill them. That doesn't
the way
justify.
yeah the way the what do they call the anguiz, the way
Yeah.
they go about things, right? It's it's essentially the easy way out. Like, just kill everybody, make a statement. But a real change, it has to be more complicated than that, right? Of course. Um, and I think Vince even points that out, or someone in the book does, right? Where like if you take down the hierarchy and just replace it with the anguish, like you're not really any better than the hierarchy. Like
Hmm.
that's just not how this game works. Um, and I really like the whole concept of will, like ceding your will to this hierarchy, to this pyramid, right? Because quite literally, the republic runs on people's will, right? I mean, after the attack at the Colosseum, infrastructure collapses for a moment. Like the rulers or the senators or whatever, they lose their power. They feel weakened, right? They feel the
Hmm.
blow, and it's just such an interesting, um, maybe too on the nose, but in a good way, because it really points out how big of a problem and how big of a source of power the people really are. And I feel like, especially right now, and historically, I feel like we tend to forget that we also have the power and we have a responsibility. So really, really happy that those questions were brought up. Um, really excited for that answer, if there is
Yeah, but
any.
like, yeah, I was about to say, I was like, but if, and I agree with this wholeheartedly that I don't think like revolution, like violent revolution is ever the answer because you're going to just do like, that's how people function, you're going to just do the exact same thing. So if violent revolution is not the answer, what can you do as an individual? Like
Right.
what,
Yeah.
like, like what,
Which
if you have the power, what power do you have if not violence? Which I mean, I agree with this that like violence isn't the key. Like that's a horrible fallacy of just saying, well, no, I hate them because they're on top. But if I were on top, shoot, that'd be awesome. Like, so I don't know if that's what
It,
I
it
thought was cool.
it just reminds me of Babel, and I think we talked about this before, without getting into spoilers for that book, of course. But like the subtitle for that book is "On the Necessity of Violence," and a big point of that book is that violence is the answer, which I think both of us disagree with, um, to an extent, right?
Wholeheartedly, yeah. Yeah.
Wholeheartedly, yeah. It's
Wholeheartedly.
like
Yeah, that's
violence
interesting.
is not the answer; it's the easy way out. Terrorism is the easy way out, and I think Viz is able to like call that out. And it's one of the reasons why I was really happy that he didn't pick to go under military or under religion, and he went with governance. And
That's cool.
it's exciting. I'm excited to see where that goes. Right? Um, yeah. No. The questions were huge. So impact, I think I gave it an 8.5 and not higher because, and I think retroactively it's gonna go up depending on how the next few books go, right? I think
Hmm.
this really was all about planting those seeds, which again, retroactively, I think it will go up because
Yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I completely like. I already know what's gonna happen. I picture it. There's gonna be a moment where he like, reveals himself as the long lost son. And it's gonna be super epic, and I'm so excited for it. So we have one last segment, don't we? Oh no, we have two.
you
Style.
have to.
Okay. Yeah, style. I feel like the style is going to go kind of quick. Style, I give it an 8 out of 10. I thought it definitely did not hinder the story whatsoever. It helped it. I thought it was good. I enjoyed it. It wasn't stand out. Like, I didn't sit there going, the style's not what made the book. Yet also, it was good enough that I felt like it helped. It helped build the atmosphere, the feeling, the tone. It added to the story. It did not take away. Very simply put.
Yeah, I also give it an 8 out of 10. I thought it was well written. Uh, some of the metaphors were really nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it really didn't take away from the story. It gives you that vibe that I think it wants to convey. I felt a lot of the helplessness and frustration that Viz felt, especially by all these um, adults in his life. Right? They have so many expectations for him and very little sympathy. Um, and he finds that sympathy with his friends, right? Especially the
Mm-hmm.
unlikely allies. Like I think Aiden Aiden
I did.
and Aqua or
Equa.
Equa.
Equa and I did.
Yeah,
Equa and I
yeah,
did.
yeah, 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 yeah. Those guys, unlikely allies, but I felt the emotions there. My biggest gripe, I would say, is that there was this overuse. I don't know if you noticed it, but eyes in this book, they revealed so much emotion, like explicitly. There were so many sentences where Viz would say, "And this guy looked at me this way with a hint of disappointment," or Amissa looked at me, her eyes showing like sympathy. It's like, okay, well, it kind of got to me. Um, it reminded me
Yeah.
a lot of how Brandon Sanderson says or describes his character's lips as drawn to a line. It's like
Yes.
we need to make a drinking game out of this. Anytime
Yeah,
eyes are used to reveal emotion. But aside from that, the style was awesome.
No, it was good. It was good. I've heard. So I haven't read his previous trilogy, but from what I have, like, I was reading some reviews and stuff, just kind of get a um, idea for the author, like what he's written before. And the biggest frustration with his previous books was the prose. And it makes sense that after 3 books, it would get better. It was good here. Like, I had a good time. Yeah, it was very good. Never distracted. It wasn't particularly like I wasn't reading it because of the prose. It wasn't particularly beautiful, but there were moments that I thought were really solid. Like, there were scenes that were so visceral because of the way he describes things. So yeah, I think it was good. It was very good. I enjoyed it. Okay, now finally, I think World is the one I'm most excited to talk about for me because I we disagree on this a little bit. We're a whole point off. So, Nor, can you explain why you gave World a 7.5?
Yes, I gave it a 7.5 mostly because it is straight up the Roman Empire. Which I love. I love the Roman Empire. But I feel like a lot of my understanding of the world didn't come from the actual book itself. It just came from what I think of when I think of the Roman Empire. So, that being said, the caveat here is that mind blowing ending with the three different realities, the lore is going to expand so heavily that I think book two is going that world building is going to go up, if not by a point, maybe two. And I say this without having even read the book, of course. But another reason I would say is because a lot of the magic system, the will, right? It's still somewhat mysterious to me. They talk about it
Hmm.
here and there, right? You get the idea. Like it's enough to understand the plot, but not enough to like, for me at least, to appreciate like the way it actually works. Because it
Yeah.
helps with infrastructure. Uh, People go to the Aurora Columna,
Hmm.
to which literally means just star column, and they
Yeah.
like and they see their power, or they see their willpower. They get weaker. The people higher up, they have greater strength, greater physical activity. They talk about conditional will, which I don't really know what that means. I mean, I can kind of assume. I just know it makes some pretty cool grappling hooks and bracers for the labyrinth. And yeah, I think it wasn't like fully fleshed out. It was fleshed out enough for me to like appreciate it and understand it, but not enough to like actually appreciate it, if that makes sense. But
Yeah, I think that your criticisms are pretty spot on. So yeah, I give it an 8.5 out of 10. And the area where I think we differ in particular is I gave a lot of points here for how useful the magic system was thematically. Because I think oftentimes magic is integral to the plot of the story, but not necessarily its themes, or not necessarily its like point, its themes. And I felt here that it was ideal. And the whole thing of the main character denying to use the magic system is awesome. The fact that it's not like he
yes,
can't get it, it's that he says, no, I think that's immoral. I think that's wrong. And that to me spoke a lot to it. And because, why would somebody write a fantasy book over historical fiction? Why is this not actually the Roman Empire? And the answer is because, well, we have this magic system that is being utilized to tell a different story. The story is not possible without will. And I don't think I've read another story like it because of that. And yeah, I completely agree that it's not fully fleshed out. And I found that at times. I mean, I didn't really care too much about it, but I understand like that. Yeah, yeah, it needs to be explained more. He teased us a lot with things like conditional will during the like dark academia settings, during the classroom settings, but it was very clear that it was like, oh yes, 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 conditional will, blah 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 blah.
yeah,
You know. Then we discussed the answers. You're like, so it's very obvious that we didn't really get to hear any of the specifics. But then again, I'm not sure how much I would care about the specifics, to be honest, because the main character didn't use will. Now it's clear that he has magical powers, right? He has this magic thing going on. So we get to explore more of what that means and how it functions and how this is different from normal will. So yeah, I think it's going to get higher for me. But the reason I gave it such a high score was, first of all, because a lot of the world terms stuck pretty well, like Aurora Columni, like the Eutychium, like these, all of these things that were very, novel. The terms stuck for me. Like the transvect being a floating thing, like you can see the utilization in the world, and it really, what took it from an 8 to an 8.5 for me was seeing how impactful the pyramids were, how impactful it was whenever all of the Colosseum, or like a third or 2/3 or whatever of the Colosseum got killed, and people passed out, like generals, senators passed out. Like, oh my gosh. So it really is significant. Like, these people really do hold this power. They really do hold this responsibility, because they literally are responsible. The people above them will pass out if they die. Like, that's crazy. And so that to me is what brought it from an 8 to an 8.5. So I think I have a lot of the same criticisms though as you. I definitely think it could have been expanded. I'm looking forward to it being expanded. I didn't care as much for it being Rome. I like Rome. I saw enough of a difference where I was like, whatever. And there was enough of a like visual difference in my mind where I could picture it a little differently. But I think that to me is what kind of fully encapsulates the world. So, any final thoughts? Any final thoughts?
I have a couple of quotes that I want to quote.
Let's dig through it. Let's dig
We'll
through
save those for the end. Are we done?
Okay.
Have we talked
Do
about
you have anything else? I feel no. We definitely. You know what? Get in the comments if we missed something that you enjoyed. Get in the comments. Let us know.
Good.
Call
Good
to action.
plug for interaction.
They say to They say to do that online. They say to call for interaction.
Yeah, call for action. Come on, guys.
Call for action.
Oh.
But yeah, if you have anything that you missed, like, tell us what was your favorite part of the book. If you got this far, we appreciate you. So go in there, tell us your favorite part of the book, or if you haven't read it, tell us what part sounded the coolest. Do that too. We'd appreciate it. So Nor, let's go into some quotes.
All right, here we go. Silence is a statement, Diago. Inaction picks a side. And when those lead to personal benefit, they are complicity. That one's just so good, man. That one actually made me think about all that stuff. Then there's this one.
Ooh.
It is the way of the hierarchy. They ask something small of you, a thing you would prefer not to do, but is not so terrible. You think you're working your way up, but in fact, they are changing you, molding you into what you think you should be, one compromise at a time. In this place, each man has to find his line, has to find it ahead of time, and be resolved never to cross it. And then,
that one in particular, I was really like, I didn't know what to think about, because it was so, I don't know, like that is why I give the impact such a high numbers, because of quotes like that where I was like, dang, how does that fit into our world? And that to me speaks to a really good fantasy or science fiction book, or just fiction in general, is whenever you pause and have to apply it to your own life or to your own world, where you're able to take these fantastical characters that have such a clearly different situation from you, yet their lessons matter. So like I was like, dang.
It really gets you thinking. It really got me thinking, without getting into much detail, of this legislature that was passed recently. And by recently, I mean like the last few years. That feels like such a small and consequential thing. But I talked to our friend Hugo, who was in the Project Hail Mary episode about it.
Mm-hmm.
And
shout out Hugo.
I kept thinking of like how small of a change it seems. And like personally, I don't disagree with the choice, but it's a big ask, and it is subtly changing it's a compromise. Trying to mold you into someone else. So very deep stuff there.
No, and like I think that applies to, you grow up with certain values, you grow up with certain conceptions, whether or not they're right, you kind of grow up and figure that out. But
you have to find your
as you grow up, you're constantly asked to circumvent your own values, and you as an individual are responsible for figuring out what truly matters to you. Like, what are you willing to push aside? What are you willing to draw a line in the sand over? And that's like a big thought. Big thought.
It really
big
is.
Thought.
It's huge. It's a huge question, which, again, big plus for this book for asking it, right? And then I have one more. All right. Innocent? Do you think an Octavius who gives his will is somehow less responsible than the sextus who kills with it? The weak and poor endure in the hierarchy because the alternatives are harder, not because there are none. They know the system is wrong, but they choose not to think or speak up or act because they ultimately hope that in their silence they will gain. Or, at the very least, not have to give more than they already have given. They are driven by a myopic self-interest and greed just as much as the senators and knights. And it's as Melior said, you of all people should hate them for that. The decision may have been made by the few, Diago, but it's the will of the many that killed your family.
And I immediately thought, roll credits when I read that. I was like,
right?
Got it.
Yeah.
Check.
It's so good.
Yeah, so for that, I immediately thought of like the American system values, at least pretends to value merit, right? And I immediately thought of a lot of times the poor think they're poor because they didn't do it right. Because they did something wrong along the way. Because they made missteps. They made mistakes. And the rich think they're rich because they're just that successful. Because they're just that smart. Because they did all the things right. Because they took the right steps. They got the right education. Because they made the right choices. And this really highlights that contradiction. Because the fact is, there are plenty of amazing people that are poor. There are plenty of horrible people that are rich. And there's everyone in between, right? It's not as simple as you're poor because of you weren't good enough. I think this really highlights that. And a lot of people stay poor because they think, oh well, there's the choice. There's the American self-interest, the American dream, that if I just work hard enough, if I just do the right things, then I can climb the ladder. Then my children after me can climb even higher, and the children after them can climb even higher. That it's almost like they pretend it's a linear progression. It's either up or down. But life isn't so simple.
Exactly.
So yeah,
I'm really glad you pointed that out.
So that was at least how I immediately connected it, because I agree, it really is interesting. But it also says you should have some guilt, right? Some moral responsibility, believing in that system of saying, and I mean, I think we can all partly understand that and take a little responsibility in it of saying well, yeah, I went to college. Why did I go to college? Because, well, I go to college to get an education so I can get a job. If I can get a job, then I can make a little bit more money and kind of climb that social ladder, climb the economic ladder, make the right choices so that my children after me can already be at a certain level and can keep going up. And by thinking it's off of our self-interest and greed, that we want to be richer, we want to be more successful, we want to, it's very selfish, right? It's a completely selfish conception, saying I want my children to be better. I want to be richer. That it very much ignores the state of the many. Yet, is that so wrong? I don't know.
Big questions,
dude, and that's why we're here on Novels and Nightcaps, where I'm more than half a wine bottle. I almost finished. I almost got to the bottom of the wine bottle.
So you're telling me you did not finish your drink?
Oh,
there we go. Finished it. Because here at Novels and Nightcaps, do you want to say it?
We finish our drinks.
Thank you, and good night.